California Edition. My name is Brad Pomerance. Suzie Price is back. She's a new member of the Long Beach City Council. I must ask, how are you doing with your new job? Long Beach, of course, is a part-time city council. You're also an attorney, a prosecutor, lots to juggle. How's it going?
It's going great. I'm enjoying the process very much. Have had hundreds and hundreds of meetings since I was elected in April, and very much appreciating the opportunity and finally getting to a place where we have a great balance.
And so let's talk about those meetings, because look, in a lot of ways, these are good times. I'm not saying that everything's perfect, but it's not 2011.
That's right.
The economy's improving, Long Beach is bouncing back a bit. So what are you hearing in all your meetings?
Well, we just finished the budget process, and leading up to the budget process, so from July until September, every single meeting, almost every single meeting, was about the budget. And I'm talking about meetings outside of City Council. So people wanting to talk to you about their programs, their funding levels, the benefits of trying to get more money to their particular cause. And, I probably had between 3 to 6 meetings every day related to aspects of the budget, whether they wanted to educate you on their operations, give you a tour of their facility, or advocate for more money. And you're right, it is good times. However, there are deficits projected for next year and the following year.
Why is that? Do you know? It seems confusing to me, because as I understand it, revenues are expected to kind of creep up slowly as well next year. Well,
revenues are going to increase, but they're not going to increase at the level of our obligations. They're just not increasing at that rate. And we had a major adjustment in our budget and our future anticipated budget when CalPERS adjusted its rates and its costs. And they did so really for the future financial health of all organizations. So it's a good thing, but it's going to hurt.
And let's talk about pension obligations. You know as well as anyone, the city of San Bernardino filed bankruptcy. Many would argue in large part because of pension obligations. The city of Stockton as well, Detroit, is falling apart. So pension obligations are a very significant pull on municipalities. At the same time, pensions are attractive to potential employees. And so there's a real balance there.
Of course, of course. And I have to say I'm very proud of what Long Beach has done in terms of pension reform. I think they were a leader, and many of our associations were leaders in paving the way for pension reform. I mean, over $200 million savings as a result of pension reforms was accomplished through the previous council. And I think moving forward, pensions are our largest source of unfunded liability. There are other areas of unfunded liability that are often ignored, and an opportunity for us as a city to really hone in on, to try to address. But in terms of pensions, absolutely, the largest amount of unfunded liability comes from there. The good news about it is that because of the reforms that we've made, in 2021, we're expecting our city to be in a much healthier place because of the reforms that have happened. It's going to take some time for those reforms to come into effect, however, because we're talking about employees leaving, employees coming.
It's prospective. The reforms can only apply to new hires.
That's true. Yes, yes. The most meaningful reforms. There are other reforms that exist now for everyone, including the amount of money that they're going to pay in. And we have negotiations coming up with our biggest employee organizations and associations this year.
So that begs the question: do we need more reform in pensions? The early part of this decade, it was all about reform. Did we go far enough?
Well, I think there's definitely still some room and some areas for us to explore in terms of pension reform. I think that there is going to be a need, realistically. Anyone who sits here and tells you there's no more room for pension reform and we don't need any more pension reform is probably not being truthful. The honest answer to that is we're going to have to sit down at the table and really look at what the numbers are, what the contribution rates are, and make sure that we're in line with PEPRA and doing everything we can as a city to be responsible. And
how do you, if I may ask, how do you get to a place where your perks, pension is a perk, are attractive enough that you are still able to recruit the best and the brightest?
Well, that's a huge issue for me. I mean, I'm a prosecutor, and I know firsthand.
You know from pensions. You have a pension.
I do. But above and beyond that, I know how important it is to recruit quality people to represent the city, specifically in an area like police. You know, we want people who are capable, honest, ethical, hardworking. We want them to choose Long Beach as their first option, not the only place that would take them. Having said that, you know, we're not unique. We're not the only city that's going through this. And, you know, one of the things that public employee associations do frequently is compare themselves to other cities that are similarly situated. And I think in terms of our comparisons, we're doing pretty well.
But what about in comparison to the private sector?
Well,
because but you know, some could argue though that the private sector is looking a lot less attractive because they're all but eliminating pensions. They're going all 401k or whatever it may be.
You know what? It's a balance, and it really is ultimately an individual choice. The pension does offer an offset from what has traditionally been much lower salaries in terms of the industry standard.
But that's traditionally. Now, one could argue some of the public positions are starting to be on par with private salaries.
Absolutely, absolutely. And as well, and also some could argue that with the amount of employee contributions, that's taking away from their ultimate take-home dollars. It really is an individual choice in terms of, you know, what people decide to do and how. I think that for many, the pension is an offset to a lower industry salary. But I have a spouse who's worked in the private industry his entire life, and for him, not having a pension is worth the opportunity to earn more money. He's never going to top out at a certain salary scale. He's always going to have the opportunity to earn more money. That's an opportunity you don't have in government.
I know that one of the most important issues to any city is public safety. I also know that Long Beach has seen a downturn in crime. Kind of counterintuitive that we'd see a downturn during economic hard times, but that's what we've seen. But you would know as a prosecutor that the one area where we have seen a bit of an uptick in crime statistics, whether because of realignment or not, is residential burglaries. Is that what you're seeing on the streets? Is that what you hear?
Well, that's definitely what I'm hearing. It's what I heard during the campaign, and frankly, it's one of the reasons I ran for office. My husband and I were victims of property crimes in our neighborhood, a neighborhood that we love and that's traditionally been known as safe. And my next door neighbor and others who have been there for years are now concerned about things that they weren't concerned about before as a result of property crimes. You know, I give major credit to the Long Beach Police Department for being able to maintain the stats that they have. You know, but stats are numbers. And although they are impactful and significant, when you talk to a victim of a crime whose home was burglarized in the middle of the day, that is a very valid and very human outcome and consequence that you can't quantify with stats.
So as part of the budget, are you trying to put more dollars toward this specific crime, putting officers that would target property crimes, residential burglaries?
Absolutely. So I met with the chief of police prior to his presentation to the city council regarding the public safety budget. And during our city council meeting at that night, I asked him, if you were to receive additional money and overtime dollars, would you be able to allocate it to a residential burglary unit and create a strategic plan for us as a city of how we're going to combat and reduce this specific kind of crime? And he said yes. So we made it a point on the council to allocate $350,000 of one-time funds to the Long Beach Police Department to focus specifically on residential burglaries. The reason for that, you know, our police department is down 200 officers, and we can't, and I've told everyone this, I can sit here and tell you we're going to replace those police officers, but the reality is we don't have the money. The police department receives 50% of the city's budget right now, and we don't have the money to replace the 200 officers. Gradually, I would like to be able to restore police officers, and we do that when we have police academies like we're doing this year. You know, every year I'd like to be able to restore a few police officers. In the meantime, however, just because a crime doesn't involve in a death or a great bodily injury or blood, frankly, doesn't mean it's not a priority. And in the 3rd district and in many districts, the possibility and the idea that someone's going to come into your home in the middle of the day or in the middle of the night and invade your space and frighten your children and your family, that is worth allocation of resources.
Her name is Suzie Price. She is a member of the Long Beach City Council. My name is Brad Pomerance. It's California Edition.